Insights channel, Steve here. Continuing from last time, this is chapter 46 this time from one of my latest books, Out the Bottomless Pit 2. This time talking about chimeras. And so why did God, in speaking to his prophets, choose to use chimeras as an illustration for future world empires? For example, in Daniel 7 and Revelation 13, mysterious hybrid or chimera creatures are mentioned, also mythological creatures such as a seven-headed dragon in Revelation 12. See also chapter 17, Dragons and Dinosaurs, in my first book, Out of the Bottomless Pit. Why did the ancient Babylonians, as well as the Egyptians, Assyrians, Greeks and Romans all mention giants, chimeras and other strange creatures in more modern times like trolls and all other kind of strange, odd creatures? We hear about them. We find them richly fixed in nearly every culture on earth. All kinds of legends, small creatures as well as giants. From leprechauns in the Emerald Island to the trolls of Scandinavia. Everywhere one looks, there is so much evidence that all the above have been seen by human beings, and even in very recent times under special circumstances. Yes, and I myself, I have testified that in our own forest here many years ago, I got scared off my bicycle when I was up in the mountains here. And fortunately there was a gulf between me and the continuing forest on the mountain. And I couldn't believe what I saw. I saw a creature that was a cross between different, I don't know what you call them. It was like a cross between a leopard or tiger-like creature and something like a wolf. And I don't know how such a thing was possible, but that's what I saw. It was massive. It was at least 2 meters long. Fortunately, it was very far away from me, and how it came to be there in the Scottish forest, I don't know. Others have since suggested, well, maybe it was one of those big cats or something that the rich people had as a pet that got released in the 70s, but interbred or something. But I don't take the explanation very well, because this was too big and too different. It didn't look like a normal creature. It definitely looked like a hybrid. But I know I saw that. That was many years ago. Yeah, it scared the living daylights out of me. I ran down the hill as quick as I could, got on my bike again and took off. I never saw it again. I've been in that area since, but I've never seen it again. And so is reported from others too. Others have, 2 weeks after that happened to me, I happened to be taking our cats to be housed while we went away. And the lady there says, it's funny you talk about that strange animal you saw, because a few weeks ago my son saw something like that jump clear over a 2.5 meter wall in our backyard. We don't know what that thing was. So somebody else seems to have seen it too, and that was quite some distance away. So anyway, do these things exist? Chimeras and other strange creatures like werewolves, and do such things exist? Is lycanthropy possible, as we discussed last time? I think such things do happen, unfortunately. And everywhere one looks, there's so much evidence that all the above have been seen. If evolution were true, then none of these creatures should in fact be possible, because according to evolution and the so-called survival of the fittest, these strange aberrations of nature would not have survived birth, and yet apparently they did survive very well. Why? How did they come into being? God has some strange creatures of his own in heaven. In Revelation 4 we see described 4 very strange beasts. Each beast had 4 heads, and they're known as the cherubim, around the throne of God himself. We shall also mention other places in the Bible upon occasion, like Ezekiel 1, Ezekiel 10, our book of Isaiah. The cherubim have 4 heads in total, 1 head like a lion, 1 like a calf, 1 as a man, 1 as an eagle. And their arms and legs are those of a man. A very strange chimera, strange creature. Also, there's another one. We had each of the seraphim also had 6 wings about him. Well, that's a different creature, the seraphim. Seraphim above the throne of God, cherubim around the throne of God. Just as so-called modern science largely denies the existence of giants and simply brushes all the evidence it finds under the carpet, we are literally. I was reading a fantastic article yesterday that I'll have to tell you more about, because it was about how many times they've discovered under the pyramids, the Pyramid of Giza, there's a massive area for a city, massive corridors. Of course they keep it all locked up and say it's not there, but everybody knows it's there. I think that the pyramids were built by the fallen angels and the giants in pre-flood times, and obviously they had a city right under the pyramid. There's all kind of stuff, but it certainly wasn't built by the Egyptians. It wasn't built by man. You couldn't build those pyramids if we tried to. So a lot has been going on this planet, a lot, that they try to hide, one of them being chimeras and giants. Well, the same is true with the mysterious creatures of mythology, which might in some cases have a basis in actual fact. Well, I'm certain they are. I'm certain they are real. Which again is being conveniently brushed under the carpet of evolutionary teaching that such things never happened and couldn't possibly happen, and yet they have done. However, the false doctrine of evolution cannot explain the many mysterious sightings of amazing creatures by so many people all through time in all countries across the planet, as documented by most cultures on the earth at some time or other. Oh yes, sadly, most of the time, if anyone's brave enough to even suggest that some other creatures of mythology are probably real, they'd probably be hooted down as a nutcase or delusional by the so-called scientific community, which are not actually very scientific, as they refuse to see the evidence, even when it's right in front of them, just because it's outside of the evolutionary paradigm. That's correct. You know, they have a whole organization that goes and buries the bones of the giants or takes them away, hides things like that. No. They don't want man to see how it really was. They don't want man to believe in God and creation and the flood and what went on before the flood. They want people to be blind to it all so they can keep doing their evil deeds. Well, that's coming to an end soon. Lord Jesus Christ is going to come back soon, put an end to Satan's shenanigans and the fallen angels' shenanigans and all the demonic powers coming to an end soon. Well, is it just possible we can find the answers right there in the Bible itself? Genesis chapter 6 is probably the best key to understand how it all started. Also, it's a good idea to be somewhat familiar with the non-canonical books, such and especially the book of Enoch, the book of Jasher, the book of Jubilees. I couldn't agree more. They all agree with the Bible, and sometimes give many more details concerning the same stories. All of them talk about giants and chimeras. If the giants and the chimeras came into being before the Great Flood, what about after the Great Flood? Did the same conditions happen again? i.e. in Genesis 6, mating of the angels with the women on the earth to create giants, and the supernatural abilities of the fallen angels enable them to tamper with the genetics. Well, yes, the genetics of animals and birds and fish to form chimeras. Well, you'll find in my books on the paranormal talking about humans being abducted by so-called aliens. I think those sort of things that happened before the flood do still happen. But that's another whole big topic in itself about alien abductions. Another one is cattle mutilations. Those ones are well known. Why does it happen? I think the same sort of thing. But it's much more restricted now than it was in pre-flood times. Restricted by God, that is. Now here's an amazing story. Now I have put in this book on the paranormal, Out the Bottomless Pit too. Here's a quote from my book, Jasher Insights. Incredible story here from the book of Jasher. This Jasher chapter 80, 13 to 16. The Lord sent all kinds of beasts of the field into Egypt, and it came and destroyed all Egypt, man and beast and trees and all things that were in Egypt. And the Lord sent fiery serpents. Now you can see in the book of Isaiah, just reading yesterday, there are such things as dragons and there are such things as flying fiery serpents. They exist. In fact, some were seen down in I think it was Wales 100 years ago. Yeah, such things as these. Very beautiful, apparently. Scorpions, mice, weasels, toads, together all kind of creeping things in the dust, came out against the Egyptians in the time of Moses. Flies, hornets, fleas, bugs, gnats, each swarm according to its kind, and all reptiles and winged animals. What are winged animals? According to their kind, came into Egypt and grieved the Egyptians exceedingly. If that wasn't strange enough, when we get down to the 19th verse of the book of Joshua, we read the following very strange account. And when the Egyptians hid themselves in their houses on account of the swarm of the animals, they locked their doors after them. And God ordered the Sulanuth, now what's that, which was in the sea, to come up and go into Egypt. And she had long arms, 10 cubits in length, of the cubits of a man. So each of her arms was around 20 feet long. Imagine 8 like that. She was apparently some sort of octopus-like creature or small kraken. And the next verse is almost impossible for modern man to even conceive. And she went up on the roofs and uncovered the rafting and the flooring and cut them and stretched forth her arm into the house and removed the lock and bolt and opened the houses of Egypt. That's pretty far out, isn't it? I know. And afterward came the swarm of animals into the house of Egypt. The swarm of animals destroyed the Egyptians. It grieved them exceedingly. There are many more interesting things happening in the 80th chapter of Joshua, which I highly recommend everyone to read. Yeah, I would also say the book of Joshua is fun reading also to read some of those stories with children as well. Very, very interesting. They'll be fascinated by some of those stories. Now, of course, you might ask, well, are the stories 100% true and accurate? Well, that's a good question. I find the book of Joshua fascinating. It has a lot of amazing things like that. It even has another example where it shows a tiny midget pharaoh that's not more than about 3 feet high. Hilarious. He wasn't a nice guy, by the way. Very bad. He might have been small, but he was big in badness. But the stories in the book of Joshua, some of those would be great to read to certain kids. They'd find it quite fascinating. They're kind of like stories like, Jonah and get swallowed by a whale, that sort of thing. Wow. For those who would naturally just dismiss the above account as a mere story or myth, I'd like to remind everyone the story of Jonah in the Bible, which also sounds totally impossible to our modern logic. Imagine a man being swallowed by a very large fish of some kind, spending 3 days in its belly, like Jonah and the whale or whatever creature was swallowed by, being still alive. After desperate prayer, God ordered the fish to vomit the prophet Jonah out on the dry land in the direction of Nineveh, the very city that God told Jonah to preach to. Better do what God tells you to do. You don't want to get swallowed by a big whale or something. Jonah had originally refused, tried to run away from God by taking a ship to Tarshish across the Mediterranean Sea. A huge storm had arisen. The sailors, being afraid, asked all men on board if any of them had committed a crime against God. Jonah told them the storm had come because he'd run away from obeying his God. So in fear, the sailors reluctantly threw Jonah, on his own insistence, into the sea, which immediately went completely calm, and a very large fish appeared alongside the ship and swallowed Jonah up. See the book of Jonah in the Bible. It's an amazing story. Very amazing. If God could cause a big fish to swallow up Jonah the prophet, cause him to be vomited back onto the dry land 3 days later, so that Jonah could repent and go and do what God originally commanded to, go and warn Nineveh of impending doom, then why couldn't God do the same strange things mentioned in the book of Joshua? I'd also mention, I know from another story, another pocket book, that actually Jonah, after he'd done the job, he and his wife, they ministered to a lot of people. They won a lot of people who followed the Lord. It's an amazing story. Jonah just talking to them was just the beginning, but he got a lot of people there converted, and a lot of people converted to the Jewish religion at that time, and they obeyed God and forsook their wickedness. Amazing story, that one about Jonah. The Bible says that with God nothing's impossible, Luke 1:37. We just have to have faith in the living God that he can do absolutely anything if it suits his purpose. Now that's a very, very good verse, because just finalising here, I was on a show the other day, I was interviewed, and I happened to mention that when the mark of the beast comes along, I was very concerned for the innocent. I was very concerned for the mothers and the children, and how would they escape from getting the mark of the beast? You know what governments are like. They're not going to wait, they just bust down the door with their police, come in and force the mark on people, you know, try and change them into something else with their mark. But what about the innocent? How would they get away? I mean, a lot of people think, oh, I'll have my shotgun and run to the hills, especially in the United States, that's what they think. But how are you going to fight planes and tanks and in realistic terms? How are you going to stop yourself from getting the mark? I want to tell you right now, it has to be supernatural. We're going to need a lot of supernatural protection in the end time. And I answered some of the people who asked me some questions along that, why I thought that God was going to protect the little ones from the mark. I said, well, I think it's going to be a lot like, it says in Revelation 12, that unto the woman were given wings of an eagle, she might fly away into the wilderness, which had a place prepared of God. God's going to protect his people, you bet he will. Same as he did with Moses and the children of Israel from those murderous armies of the Egyptians. I really believe what it comes down to, don't think you can save yourself with a rifle and a gun. No, you can't. The only thing that's going to save you is prayer and the angel of God. We're going to have to learn to trust God more, of him supernaturally taking care of us. But of course, that doesn't mean to say we go out of our way to stand around when the mark's being issued out. No, do what you can to get out of the picture. But if it comes to the unfortunate and those who can't protect themselves, God's going to have to protect them. I know it's hard for people to think right now, yeah, but look what's going on in Gaza right now. Look what's happened to innocent people. I know people can say that to me. I agree. But all I know is that when it comes to the Great Tribulation, God has promised he has a place for those in the Great Tribulation, his elect. He's going to protect them. So it's important to hold on to God's promises. Actually, in the situation in Gaza, I have heard stories of angels showing up to Muslim women, a whole bunch of them, 20 of them, and I've heard of stories where people have been supernaturally protected. So God's angels are always doing a lot they don't get credit for. They're doing millions of things all the time. I know they are. They've helped me many times, and my wife helped us in very dangerous circumstances as missionaries on the field. But we live in exciting times, and these things I'm talking about, like chimeras and that, I think if things like that show up more, they're signs of the underworld, just like UFOs are in the skies, you know. More and more of that happening, sightings, both physical on the ground, chimeras, and also UFOs and so-called aliens, really demons or fallen angels. That is a sign that times are late, and I think it's going to intensify. We're going to see more and more of that happen as time goes by. Well, thanks for listening. I hope you found that interesting. Do get my paranormal books, Out of the Bottomless Pit 1 and 2, because they have a fantastic amount of information that you want to know. You really do want to know. You want to know what's going on and not just bury your head in the sand like so many do. You need to know what's going on and what's been going on since the beginning of creation. And I would highly recommend you get my Insights books, which are based on either Apocrypha books or ancient Hebrew books, like Enoch, Joshua, Jubilees, and Lost Books, Adam and Eve, Eden Insights. Fantastic material. You don't want to miss it. These books show the origin of creation. These show the truth of what really happened in creation and what really happened in pre-flood times. And it shows the supernatural to encourage you that yes, God can protect us today supernaturally. Maybe it'll make you invisible one day so you won't be detected. That's happened to me. Yes, it's happened to me when I was a missionary on the field. All kinds of strange things like that in dangerous circumstances. Well, I would encourage you, please do get my Insights books, which are Enoch Insights, Joshua Insights, Book 1 and 2, Jubilees Insights, Eden Insights, Esdras Insights, and the Lost Books of Adam and Eve. No, sorry, I said that one already. The Testament of 12 Patriarchs, Insights. And yes, I'll be coming up with a new book in a few months' time, and that'll be like Enoch Insights number 2. It will actually be called The Secrets of Enoch, based on the second book of Enoch, which I think you're going to find absolutely fascinating. Well, you can get all those books from, those 10 books you can get at Amazon, or you can get them straight from me, Steve, at Stephen, the ph.strut at btinternet.com. And to let you know soon, we've got a brand new website for you, which I think you're going to just really like. And that new website will be www.insightspublication.com. The insights with an S, the publication without an S. So www.insightspublication.com. It's not open yet, but it will be soon. My dear daughter, who does the fantastic covers to the books, she's also expert on web design and that sort of stuff. So when she's finished designing the new website, we'll open it probably within a couple of weeks, I would imagine. My old website's still open though. It still has quite some information on what's going on today. I put a lot of articles there recently on what's going on around the world, and that is www.outofthebottomlesspit.co.uk. Well, thanks for listening. Bye for now.